Day by Day Kids Bible, Day 71. A Marching Sound in the Treetops. Time passed. One day David asked God a question. Should I go back to the land of Judah? Yes, said God. What town should I go to? Asked David. Go to Hebron, said God. So David moved to Hebron with his 2 wives. He also took his men and their families. There were lots of fighting between Saul's men and David's men. The war lasted a long time. David and his men grew stronger. Saul's army got weaker. Now one son of Saul still lived. He was made king. One day, 2 army leaders went to his house. It was in the middle of a hot day. Saul's son was resting in bed. The 2 leaders went inside. They acted as if they were bringing some wheat. Instead, they killed Saul's son with a sword. They cut off his head. Then they ran away. The 2 men ran to David. They said, Here's the head of the son of Saul. Saul was trying to kill you. Today God has paid him back. God saved me from all my troubles, said David. A man once thought he was bringing me good news. He told me Saul was dead. I had him killed. But you are sinful men. You killed a man who did nothing wrong. You killed him in his house, in his bed. So you should die. Then David ordered his men to kill them, and they did. Now all the people who followed Saul's sons turned to David. They chose David to be their king, so David was the king of all God's people. It was just as God had promised. David was 30 years old when he became king. He was the king for 40 years. All the fighting men from the army came to David. They said he was their king too. They stayed for 3 days in Hebron and visited David. Other people brought David donkeys and oxen carrying food. People brought more than enough flour. There were cakes of figs and raisins. There were cows and sheep and wine and oil. Everyone was very happy. Then David and his army went to fight some enemies. The enemies lived in Jerusalem. They said, You'll never get into this city. Even people who can't see or walk could keep you out. They really thought David couldn't get in. David talked to his men. The man who leads today will be my army leader, he said. Joab led the fight, so he became the leader of David's army. David and his men took the city from the enemies. Then David lived in Jerusalem. Everyone called it David's city. David made the city bigger. He became great because God was with him. Now Hiram was the king of Tyre. He sent David logs of wood from cedar. He sent builders who built with wood and rock. They built a palace for David. David knew that it was God who had really made him king. He knew that God had made his kingdom great. He knew that God was being good to his people. The enemies also heard that David was now king, so their army went to look for him. David found out that the enemies were coming. He went to meet them with his army. These enemies had already started fighting in Giant's Valley. David asked God, Should we go out and fight them? Will you help us win? Yes, said God. I will help you win. So David and his army went out to fight, and they won. Waves break on the shore, said David, and God broke out on our enemies with our fighting. The enemies had left their idols there, so David told his men to set the idols on fire and burn them. But the enemies came to fight the people in the valley again, so David asked God about it. God said, Don't go right in front of them. Go around behind them. Listen for a marching sound in the treetops. That means God is going ahead of you. Then jump out at the enemy in front of the trees. God will fight the enemy army. David did what God told him to do. His army won. Everybody knew who David was. God made all the nations afraid of David. On the wings of the wind. 2 Samuel 22, Psalms 18. David wrote this after God saved him from all of his enemies. I love you, God. You make me strong. God is like a strong rock to me. He is like a fort around me. He saves me. He is like my guard. I pray to God. I want to praise him. When everything was going wrong, I asked God for help. God heard me. Earth's mountains shook. God was angry. Smoke and fire came from him. God opened heaven and came down. His feet stood on dark clouds. He flew on the wings of the wind. Darkness was his blanket around him. Dark rains were a tent for him. But he was so bright that the clouds moved away with hail and flashes of lightning. God's voice sounded like loud thunder. He made his enemies run by shooting lightning at them. God's breath can open the way to the valleys in the sea. God reached down and saved me. When everything seemed lost, God helped me. He was happy with me. God, you keep my light shining. You make dark turn into light for me. God does nothing wrong. What he says is right. He watches over people who trust him.